Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild show. The Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the memories and experiences of playing board games with friends and family can create. On this episode, we're going to talk about cooperative and semi-cooperative games. So the games where you cooperate and the games where you cooperate sometimes, and everyone names you a traitor unfairly. So I'm going to go over, we're going to do what we've been playing. So I'm going to go over real quick a bunch of games I've been playing. I'm going to highlight some of the ones I really liked a lot and just blow through the other ones. One of the games that I really loved and really surprised me was Moonrakers. Moonrakers is an amazing 1 to 5 player deck building game that actually has a negotiation component to it that I think actually works. It's hard to have a negotiation component to a game that doesn't like derail the game or ends up to be a problem. Now, like all other games that I play with negotiation, it does sort of taper down towards the end of the game when you know someone's getting close to winning. Negotiation becomes harder for that person. So it does still extend the end of the game a little bit, but I do think they did a really good job. As a group, we've all played it. And we did a playthrough that recorded, and they did a second playthrough without me. That one's not recorded, but the first one is. And that'll be up shortly for all you guys to enjoy. But I would highly recommend checking out Moonrakers. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about Moonrakers before I continue.
No spoilers on the exciting action of the playthrough. Wow.
That was a fun playthrough.
All I'll say is, Nathan, you left something right back here. If you could get that at some point, that would be nice.
No spoilers.
So I was going to mention Moonrakers as well, just because it was also one of the games that I've played in the last week and a half. I was one of the people that played it twice. We played it once on the air, and then a second time on Tabletop Simulators, just a get-together game. What do I call it? So we played it once at 4 and then once at 3. The 3-player version, of course, felt a little bit different because of the different player count. James is incorrect. It's completely unfunctional at 1 and 2. It's 3 to 5.
Yeah, I can see that. I haven't played it. I actually don't think you can play it at 2. There's a solo and 3-player. So I think it is 1 player or 3 to 5. I think that's actually how it is.
And it's on Kickstarter right now, and one of the packs that's coming out on the Kickstarter does a 2-player. So you have to get that in order to do it that way.
Which makes sense, because 2-player negotiation is weird.
But, the game still works at 3-player.
Yeah.
And because of the way that the mission cards came out, we had a different early game experience where people were staying at base a lot more because... there were missions that were flopping out that people could do alone, and then you were left at junky hands that you couldn't get rid of because the other people decided to go it alone. So,
yeah, that's the other neat aspect of that game is helping other people gets rid of the cards in your hand. You might not have the greatest hand in the world, so you really want to help people because you really want to get rid of those. You really want your hand discarded, because after the end of every mission, everyone that participated loses all their cards in their hands and draws a fresh set. So that was a really cool dynamic in the game. I also loved when I tried to do solo quests occasionally. Like, when you do that solo quest, you're like, surely I can do this. And nope. The one card you need is the one card you couldn't draw. And you're on moot.
Actually, I think that's a big piece of why the game does work, is because you cycle through your deck so much in this game. Yeah. You can cycle through your deck on other people's turns in addition to your own turn. And sometimes you're just playing a couple cards into somebody else's mission just to set yourself up so that you've got a decent hand to make a good contribution on your own turn. Because you have more control over your own turn because you're the one that's setting the rewards more or less.
Did I mention this thing also has that tableau? So in most deck building games, when you buy a card, it goes into your deck. That does happen with this game. However, it also has a tableau where you can build your ship, and those are permanent bonuses that you get during the game. It's just an amazing game that I highly, highly recommend checking out, especially if you love deck builders, if you like negotiation games, just back it. It's awesome. So going through a couple of the other games I played that I want to note, Anno 1800. Anno 1800 is a game that's based off of a video game, and this game's actually really cool. It is a straight-up worker placement game where you're trying to increase your industries in the New World so that you can increase your trade routes and get points through making your people happy is basically like the mechanism of the game. But basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to fulfill the opposite side of your card, which will give you points at the end of the game. And depending on the value of the people, whether it's just a worker or an engineer or a scientist, it's harder to complete those objectives on the back of what you need to have. And I really like the mechanism of having to up those technologies in your areas, and you can easily see which ones build off of others. And I really like how you can build ships to do trade or exploration. If you do trade, you can look at your neighbor's tableau and use their technologies, which doesn't take away from them. It actually just gives them a gold, not from you, but just from the supply. So there's a lot of paying attention to other players' turns and what they do, which I like. There's not a ton of player interaction in the game other than being invested on how the other players are playing. Because you want to play the best in this game, you want to make sure that you don't invest in technologies that you don't have to, or invest in stuff you don't have to, because if player A is just going all crazy on stuff on a certain tech track, you can just use their stuff. So really good balances, lots of really cool strategies you can have, lots of replayability in the game. Really liked it, and that was Anno 1800 by Cosmos. Other one is an oldie but goodie. It's going to be Ascension. Ascension, I play the 10th anniversary edition one, which has the best art. Ascension is just a market row deck building game where you're just trying to make the best engine and get the most points. It's, I believe, the grandfather one right after of Market Row. It was built after Dominion, which is the grandfather of all deck building games. So it shows its age a little bit when playing a lot of these newer games that do it better and have a little bit more balance to them. Going back and playing that is a little rough, but it's still a lot of fun. I mean, but like I said, newer games make it show its age. I also, because we played that, and we play a lot of games at work, and they were like, wow, this game's a little old. We played Shards of Infinity, which is along the same lines from the same people, Stoneblade Entertainment. Shards of Infinity is their newer version that's similar to Star Realms and Hero Realms in the aspect that you will be attacking your opponents. Shards of Infinity does have a unique sort of mechanism in there that has an auto win when you get 20 mastery, I believe. As soon as you get 20 mastery, you automatically win the game. So it's a race between knocking out your opponents and getting 20 mastery. Really good deck builder. You like deck builders, I highly recommend that one. The other game I played was Chai. Chai is a really low-key order fulfillment game. Very quick to play. Takes between 30 to maybe 60 minutes and plays between 1 and 5 players. Turns go really quickly. You are incentivized to finish other people's tea-colored orders, and they get bonuses from it, from coins. Just really simple, really fun game. Other than that, I played King of 12, which is a very simple game where you're just trying to get the highest numeric die roll by the end of a round. Once you win 2 rounds, you win the game. The twist is you have special cards, and everyone has the same 7 cards to start the game. You will determine what those 7 cards are out of a 12-card deck, so the replayability is in the different combinations that you do to start the game. And when you play the cards, if someone plays the same card as you, they're both canceled out. In addition, if someone has the same die roll as you, those are also canceled out. So you may not always want to have 12. It's a 12-sided die. So it's really unique, really fun, very simple, light game. And that's King of 12. On the opposite side is a game that doesn't even act like what it sounds. In Bunny Kingdom, you look like you are going to, by Richard Garfield, you look like you're going to be having epic battles with, like, Watership Down style. You're going to be running and bunnies are going to be dying everywhere. No. Nay. It's an abstract strategy game that is more of a majority control than anything else. It has a King Domino style scoring effect. You're going to basically try to build these different castles and put your bunnies on it. And you're going to be drafting cards to see where you're going to place them. And you're trying to do your castle power multiplied by your resources that you can produce in a fief. And a fief is just connected areas. That's it. There's some, I believe they call them parchment cards that give you special objectives that you can get for extra points. It's really fun. It's a very strategic game, and it's a very abstract game. So, not really what you would think it is from the box art and the description. But I loved it. It was good. Another one that's popular right now that I thought was good was Summer Camp. Summer Camp is a game picked up at Target. It's by Buffalo Games. Summer Camp is a deck building game where you are going to be building your decks to build an engine to get merit badges. There are 3 activity merit badges that you're trying to get, and you are going to randomly pick which 3 merit badges, or on purpose, pick 3 merit badges you want to have for the game. So you're going to try to be the first to get those merit badges because they have descending points. But you may balance that with the trails that you're going across. If you're the first to cross, all 3 of your meeples cross a certain point on a trail, you get the participation badge, which has high value to low value. And then if you pass the second bridge, all of your meeples do, there's a all-star badge, which has points from higher to lower. Game simply ends when someone gets to all 3 badges. You'll score up the points on the badges. The person with most points wins. It's neat how the trade row changes with all the different decks you bring in from the activities. And it's neat on that decision that you have to make of whether you want to go for the activity badge and race across one of the tracks, or get your participation in all-star badge. I don't know if you guys heard of that game, but I believe it's only, I only saw it in Target, and then I noticed people were talking about it.
Yeah, I saw it pop up a bunch of times on a couple Facebook groups with that, like, grand Target clearance sale with tons of games that went on clearance. People were grabbing it and talking about it. I was like, this is actually really good.
Yep. It is good. I think it's a very fine introductory level deck building game for, like, you can easily teach it to someone that's not in the hobby and they can have a lot of fun, which says a lot. Now to blow through a couple more. The Court of Miracles. I played that one. That one's actually a very intriguing game. Court of Miracles by Lucky Duck Games is a 2 to 5 player game where you have to do worker placement, and you're trying to get your, I don't know if they're called influence, but your 6 tokens out on the board, and you have to balance between controlling a district, which is not permanent, and trying to build up to get permanent rewards on the sideboard. There's only 5 places you can place them on the sideboard, and I believe there's only 5 places you can place them in the districts. So there's a lot of cool push and pull and a lot of cool decisions that you get to make throughout the game. Really good game. And that was the Court of Miracles. Other than that, there was also Founders of Teotihuacan. That's also a good game. It's a 1 to 4 player game. It's more like Teotihuacan Light. It is a very simplified version with only a couple worker placement places that you can go to. You're simply trying to match colors of the polynomial buildings you're putting out versus the temple you're doing. And that's how you're going to get your majority of points in that game. Pretty good. If you're looking for a lighter weight game than Teotihuacan with the same sort of feel, that's the game you want to get. Alright, now we're going to get into games that I didn't like as much. And one was Flamme Rouge. Flamme Rouge is a racing game where you're trying to race bicyclists, and you have 2 of them with names that I'm not going to try to pronounce. One of them is basically like your blocker, and the other one's your sprinter. And you just simply need to get someone across the line. Your big mechanism in this is drafting. So you're in a draft behind the other vehicles will actually push you forward more. So you have to balance drafting versus being in the front. When you get in the front, you're going to start getting some exhaustion cards, and they're going to clutter up your deck. It was okay. I mean, it's. I'm not huge on racing games, and this was not doing it for me. Also, they made the really Stronghold Games made the really weird choice of not having the miniatures and bicyclists being one piece. The bicyclists are not part of the bicycle miniature, so they keep falling off while you're racing it. You can't really even see the numbers on the back, or the letters. One's the sprinter and one's the whatever. So it's really hard to identify them. I don't know. Nathan had that game. What did you think?
I had to get this game for years, and I did really enjoy it initially. But the problem is, the more racing games I played, the less I wanted to go back to this one. So while I really do like this game, all these other racing games, Downforce in particular, have definitely replaced it. If I'm going to play a racing game, I'm going to go Downforce every time over this one. Or
Formula D.
Formula D, and Formula D is definitely more of a simulation style game, so it's a really opposite end of the spectrum from this game, but it's still a pretty cool game. And so depending on my mood, I'll probably either go Formula D or Downforce, or I got a couple other racing games, but those I'll be looking at those over Flamme Rouge.
All right, so now we're going to go even faster. Space Invaders played that. Horrible quality on the game. But my daughters love the little catapult and flinging the things, so whatever. We played it like 4 or 5 times, and we'll probably keep playing it just because they like killing aliens. Nasty Neighbors is a 15-minute to 40-minute game where you're trying to make your neighbors take all their nerve pills. Once everyone has ran out of their nerve pills except for one player, that player wins the game. You're going to be playing ridiculous cards each turn, so it's basically draw one, play a card game. Meh. I'm not really into the draw one, play one thing. I'm just not. I'm not into that style of game. Game I can't pronounce with is like Churrascasa. Can you say that, Evan? Do you know how to say that one? Title?
Attempt. I am not attempting at all.
Anyway, it's the one where you eat lots of meat. It's a cutthroat game of gluttony that is ridiculously long, boring, and horrible. You're basically, on your turn, you're trying to flip your table thing to make sure it's on green if someone else flipped it, or you can flip someone else's to red or green or whatever you want to do. And you have a plate of food, and you have 2 actions you can take. You're just drawing a random card from the top of the deck at the end of your turn, basically, if you're green. And you're trying not to have more than 4 on your plate. Just awful game, and it takes forever to play. The deck of cards you have to go through is ridiculous. I did not enjoy this game. I don't normally have completely negative things to say, but this game I just don't even see anything for it. I don't know. What do you think, Evan?
There's a reason I gave it to you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, now we're down to the last 2. Comb Award. Comb Award does a lot like Dead of Winter in the idea of what it's trying to do. I went in, I was a little iffy on the theme to begin with, and it's a very weird game. It is really weird. I believe Nathan's picking that up. Nathan might like it, so I don't want to say too much on it, but yeah. Not my cup of tea on that one. So,
are you calling me weird?
Oh no, I mean you like some of this. Yeah, not weird, but like okay, yeah, you're weird. All right, you might like it, and you get the Evan gave me the deluxe version. I played it once, and now Nathan's getting the deluxe version.
Yeah, I originally got it because like there's some themes that are kind of dead of wintery, but also kind of feeling betrayal also. But it's playable at 2 player, which betrayal's not. So that's kind of why I went for it, because my wife and I enjoy playing Betrayal, but you can't play Betrayal 2 player very well. So it was just kind of a shot in the dark with that. It has a whole bunch of scenarios with it, so there's a lot of different things that are happening depending on what you want to play. So there's potential with it, but it didn't hit for us. So
Yeah. And my absolute last game is an amazing game, but as everyone knows that has known me for any length of time, I don't do social deduction games. This one is my favorite social deduction game ever created, and I don't have a desire to play it. But it is an amazing game, and that is Vealed Fate. It's by the same people that did Moonrakers. It's by Ivy Games. Vealed Fate is a really cool game where you have your basically demigod offspring, and it's randomly assigned to you in the beginning of the game, and you have to get that one to have the most renown by the end of the game. So you're basically hiding in plain sight, and it's more of a social engineering style game where you have to sort of just figure out from what the people are doing what their demigod is. It has a lot of cool mechanics. That one's going off to Nathan. I think he's going to love it. But yeah, like I said, I'm not really into the social deduction games. I like more like your Euros or your Amerithrash games where don't have to have as much of a social brain for. But that was my last. And the production quality on this game is insane. It's just like any of the other Ivy games. So anyone that backs that, which I believe Nathan backed it. Did you back it, Evan? The Moonrakers? So you are going to really love the production quality that they put in. Also, ironically, the first game I've ever had other than... I think I did say in the review that it was the first games I ever had that the insert actually works. That's not true. Mechs vs. Minions was the other one. But the Vealed Fate and the Moonrakers insert are perfect. They are precision to the point of being insane. They set the boards properly. They use the right thickness on the plastic vacuum seal insert so that once everything goes in there, you don't have to have anything bagged, nothing. If it's sleeved even. And when you put the boards on top and the lid, which is a really thick cardboard for the box, when you put the lid on there, everything holds in tight. I flipped it upside down, shook it up, nothing moved out of place. Perfect inserts for both of them. Very impressed in the amount of time and the amount of love they put in both of those games. And that's what I've been playing. How about you, Nathan?
So I've also been playing a number of games, but a lot of it's been, rehashes of games I've played before lately. But there's two I want to talk about. One of them is Lost Ruins of Ironrack. I've been getting that to the table a bit more. We played it once before on a playthrough of the channel. But this is basically a worker placement, and there's a little bit of a deck building. But the whole thing is you're sending out your archaeologists to explore these temples, and you can fight little monsters through basically you're gathering resources to use to defeat these monsters. And meanwhile, you get lots of points for killing monsters, but there's also a research track you can go up and get all sorts of cool rewards from. And there's lots of points in that research track. But yeah, it's a great worker placement. It's very popular. I really want to try out the Leaders expansion. But yeah, that's Lost Ruins of Arnak. The other one I've got to the table recently that I was really excited to get to the table, I just picked this up at my local game store, is Ark Nova. Now, a lot of people have been comparing this to Terraforming Mars, and that's not inaccurate, I think. Usually when they say that kind of thing, it's like, whatever. I ignore it. But in this case, it has a very similar weight and complexity and length. Although, with all the elements that go into Terraforming Mars, it can get longer. But as far as like if you have experienced gamers, it's not necessarily terribly long. But Arc Novum's a little bit shorter. It has a lot of the card comboing aspects, and the same aspect of, you're not really able to say, I want to play this card hoping I get this other card later, because there's so many cards in the deck that your chances of finding a specific card is not very high, but it's really good for, I pick up this card. Oh, this really is cool. It works really well with what I already have down. Let's keep this one over this one. And so your decision making is more about what you keep based on what you already have down. The other thing I really find cool is the scoring is so much cleaner. Basically, you have 2 tracks. You have a track that you're going up that's appeal, so basically your ticket sales. And then you have a track for your conservation rating, which you're going the opposite direction on. And when those 2 tracks meet, that triggers the end of the game. All you have to do is subtract one from the other, and you got your score. And it's usually like 10, 12 points. Sometimes, if you're one, the loser's usually like, okay, 1 point or negative points. So, yeah, it's really clean end game scoring.
I'm definitely going to have to get this game to the table. It sounds really amazing.
Those are the games I've been playing.
All right. Maybe I could talk you into coming down here. You can bring it with you and we can play. Mm-hmm. So, Dan, what have you been playing?
Well, besides playing Moonrakers twice, which we've already mentioned, the only other game I got to the table was a game of Rezarcona. So Rezarcona is a nice little engine building card game that it's got a very tight arc. I'm still amazed by how much you can do with only 8 cards out of that game. And in this particular play, I had the unique honor and privilege to basically have nothing but resource generating cards in my entire deck. And I did win with that, by the way. So I think it just goes to show you that you can make lemons out of lemonade.
That is really cool, though. So that's one of the games I really want to play, and I'm glad it has a lot of strategies that you can do. So I think I need to get that one to the table, too. How about you, Evan? What have you been playing?
So recently I just did and recorded a playthrough, and I really, really liked it for It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So it's by Lucky Duck Games. It's a 2-player game. So you are vying to build the best version of your kingdom, and the person that does the best job becomes the ruler of the kingdom. So what I really like with the game is there's only 4 resources that you have to use into the game. And during the turn, you draw 8 cards. One of those is a negative point card. And you flip over 2 cards that go on top and bottom of the big play board. And then the player who's active turn, they play 2 cards, either one on top and one on the bottom, or a combination, 2 on top or 2 on the bottom. And the opposing player picks one of those stacks and takes those and puts them aside. And that repeats back and forth. What's really cool is you get 2 tokens where you can play those cards instead of face up, face down. So it makes it so you have to kind of, am I throwing my negative point card in there? Am I trying to hide a card that I would potentially want and try and fake out the opponent? A lot of thinking with that. And then once you go through, and everyone does that 4 times, so you go through your entire hand, use those cards to generate resources, play, you can destroy them to get more resources, get game ending points at it with that, and then play continues into the next round. It's only 4 rounds overall, and it plays probably in about 30, 45 minutes or so. It's not really hard to teach, real simple, and I think it's kind of right now my favorite 2-player game.
Yeah, I really like that I split you choose mechanism,
Mhm.
and I think it sounds like it does it really well. So
Yeah, and the quality for it's really good. Like the cardboard that they use was super thick. It's really nice. The artwork is really good too. I really enjoyed pretty much everything about it. So a couple more playthroughs, and I think it might go really high on my list of things I like. Another one that I did, that'll be the last one I'll talk about, is going to be Reap by Jason Anarchy Games. So it's a lot of Jason Anarchy games are real simple 15 to 30-minute games. This one is you are a Grim Reaper collecting souls, and the souls are in a 3x3 grid, and you have a hidden screen in front of you, and at the beginning of your turn, you pick a random Reaper. The Reaper is looking for specific souls, and it gets bonuses to certain colors. There's 5 different colors of souls in the game. And on your turn, you have to bid your actions. You have 3 coins or skulls that you can bid on those actions. And the actions are, I can move, I can replace the soul that I'm on with a card off the top of the deck, or I can reap the soul that I'm on. So with those 3 actions, you kind of have to be very strategic about what you do. And the bidding, whoever has the highest bid is the one that collects it. And what's nice is if you have colors touching each other, you'll combo and collect all those that are touching each other. What's nice too is the Reapers get bonuses for those souls that they're collecting. So if you're after green souls on that Reaper card, if you put 2 on the Reap and you have a +2, you now have a bid of 4, so you could potentially outbid everyone else. But you also, if you think you know what your opponent's doing, you can just swap out the card that he's on and completely screw him over. For such a simple game, it does it really well, and the artwork is, for some people, would be campy. I think it's actually really kind of cool with it. So I really liked it.
yeah, I never even heard of that publisher until you mentioned them, and that game looks pretty cool. I like the art to it. All right, so we're going to launch into our main topic, which is going to be cooperative and semi-cooperative. So in your cooperative games, everyone's going to work together for a common goal and either win or lose the game together. In your semi-cooperative games, people are generally all working towards a common goal and generally all win or lose together. However, in a large portion of semi-cooperative, one person ends up winning, and or the majority ends up winning or losing. So different styles in the semi-co-op, and we'll get into different games and different examples for that. So if each one want to talk a little bit about what those mean to you, there's tons and tons of different ways semi-co-op can work, basically. So I don't know who wanted to throw out the first game for it, which, you know, it's probably going to be obvious which one the first one is. We'll see. We'll see if that one's the low-hanging fruit one, and see which one goes for that. All right, Dan, what you got?
Well, okay, I'll go for the low-hanging fruit because I feel like this is again like a spectrum. This is like a companion piece to our competitive games episode, folks. So this is also a spectrum where, you know, a game can be anywhere from like pure co-op to basically one person wins, everyone else loses, right? And how the game like portrays the win and loss conditions has a big piece of how this works in the actual table between real live players. But like, you know, there you know, a decent number of games out there that are just pure co-ops. There's no hidden traders whatsoever. Like there's no hidden trader in Pandemic. It just doesn't exist. James cannot trader in Pandemic. He might try. He might try.
I hate to burst your bubble, but there is a expansion.
I know there's an expansion. We're talking about base Pandemic. We're talking about base Pandemic. There's no trader, James. As much as you want there to be a trader.
That's it. Pandemic is a good one to go on because I had a question for you on that in general. Because I've played tons of Pandemic. I've played, I believe, every expansion of Pandemic there is. Plus, I believe all the standalone versions of Pandemic except for Pandemic Cthulhu. And I think they made a 40K one and I didn't play that one. If they do have that one, I can't remember. And I played all the Pandemic Legacies. So I'm pretty much pandemic'd out at this time. I'm having a hard time going through Pandemic Legacy 0. I don't know if it's an issue with the game itself. I'm just incredibly bored playing Pandemic Legacy Season 0. So I don't know if it is different than the other pandemics, but it's just not enough for me. So it seems to be like that is now, like, if you're talking about a cooperative game, that people jump to Pandemic. And I also think if people are talking about quarterbacking in a game, people jump to Pandemic. And for me, I believe Pandemic can have a serious problem with quarterbacking, to the point where no one needs to play that game except for one person. So I want to know what your thoughts on that. And do you feel that there's enough? Like, it doesn't feel like Pandemic has options for players. There's only a couple of optimal moves, and there's a lot of suboptimal moves. And based on your role, you're pretty much, most of your optimal moves are transparent. So I don't know. I want to know what you guys thought about that statement in general.
So I feel like the biggest way to avoid quarterbacking in a cooperative game is to give player powers, which Pandemic does, but they're very simple player powers. It's really obvious to everybody. Once you've played for 5 minutes, you know what everybody's powers is, and you can easily still quarterback. So, well, that was sort of probably an attempt to avoid quarterbacking. I don't think it really worked. So, yeah, this is definitely a strong potential here. In fact, while I hate quarterbacking, what I hate more is when I'm playing Pandemic and they're basically trying to push me to tell them what to do. So it's like a reverse quarterbacking. It's like, I want you to play the game. I want you to decide what to do. I don't want to tell you your entire turn.
So for me, Pandemic has that big problem. Like Nathan said, if you have player powers, that definitely helps stop the quarterbacking to a point. But Pandemic, I feel that it is, depending on your role, you have 2 things you're going to do on your turn, and that's really about it. So that just kind of, that's the game. Now, as far as quarterbacking for that game, though, I think it, as much as I hate quarterbacking, I mean, that's what made me get rid of my copy of Dead of Winter, and I have a sour taste in my mouth because of that. I like the quarterbacking potential for Pandemic, with the thought of Pandemic being a very entry-level game. If you have a lot of people that don't know how to play that game and you are the one teaching it, how easy it is to quarterback it makes it so the game is achievable and potentially leading people deeper into the hobby.
I agree. That's a very good point. It is a very good entry-level game to the hobby. It's super easy to teach. The mechanics are very fluid in the game. You're flipping over your cities to disease them. It just clicks along. So I think that's a very, very good point for that.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same point as well. I think Pandemic makes a trade-off. It gives the players accessibility in exchange for the quarterbacking issue, which really only shows up when someone who's very experienced at the game is at the table.
Yeah, because you want to win, you know? And you're like, I see what you have to do. There's only one route to victory.
So I want to move into the gray territory as quickly as possible, because I feel like the gray territory is the most interesting territory.
All right.
And we've already mentioned one game in that gray territory, and that's Dead of Winter. So Dead of Winter is a cooperative game. All players can die simultaneously, can lose the game simultaneously. There's the potential for a hidden traitor that's always James.
Sadly, that's not normally a lie. For some reason, I don't know if people are cheating or something with winning my cards, but more often than not, I'm always the traitor. It just doesn't make any sense.
And Dead of Winter addresses this issue fairly well, because through the theme of the game, you're cooperating to make sure that humanity survives the last apocalypse, right? So like you can feel the pressure to cooperate through the theme, but you also have this objective card in your hand, even if you're one of the good guys, and you're like, oh, I need to end the game with 3 food, or else I am not going to win. The colony is going to survive, but I'm not going to win. So that's an interesting way it incentivizes like suspicious behavior, I guess is the best way to put it.
And when I teach Dead of Winter or Forgotten Waters, which is the pirate version of Dead of Winter, I sort of like Forgotten Waters a little bit better because of the online app. They offloaded the Crossroads cards, so they sort of work better, but whatever. When I teach either of them, I tell people, especially with Dead of Winter, I say, hey, you have an objective that you have to meet whether you're a trader or not for the end of the game. You're probably going to find yourself not going along with what other people say in the game. You need to meet your objective. So I sort of plant that seed to be them a little bit of a rebel to try to prevent the quarterbacking, because they're like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do because I need to have something that I'm not telling you. So I think that's, although not perfect, is a step in the right direction to try to curb that a little bit, having those objectives in there, and also hides the traitor. And the traitors doesn't really want to reveal themselves at all, because if they get exiled, there's like 0 chance they can win. So very close to 0. So they, if anything, they want to cast shade on other people and make them seem like a traitor more than anything else, and not be a traitor themselves. Really, really great experiences from that game. And that's why I was super sad to hear that Evan had a bad experience with it, and I hope someday we can rectify that, because a lot of games work well or don't work well based on their play group.
That was the part that I was going to add to that, and I think that's one of the basic themes for almost every cooperative game that's out there. It all depends on your group. If you have a group that could work well together and play the game well, it's going to be a great time. But if you have 1 or 2 that just doesn't have that play style, it can wreck the game.
Yeah. And now I'm going to go ahead. Maybe.
Well, before we go to, I wanted to note on one of the unique aspects of Dead of Winter that I've actually heard the designers talk about in interviews, and some of the wasn't necessarily, didn't sound like it was an intentional thing, that just like they noticed was happening. There's, for some reason, Dead of Winter brings out a certain amount of self-sacrifice where people have their goals, but they know if they hit their goal, the whole group is going to lose, and they're going to lose anyway. So it's like okay, I can fail my goal, but the group will win. And in fact, I think I had one time where, technically the group won, but nobody made their goals. So it's like technically everybody lost.
Well, statistically, as being unrealistically the traitor all the time for that game, majority of the time, I hate that. I hate that self-sacrifice thing where people just get that weird thing in this game. Like, I have never played a game where people were like, no, for the great or good of the colony, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm like, what? It's a board game. You have to win. Stop it.
Yeah, I find this absolutely fascinating, because there are multiple semi-co-op games out there where, you're looking at the board state, you're looking at your personal objective card, you realize that you won't be the player to win, and your immediate instinct is just to tank it for everyone else, just to ruin the game. And that's like that's a competitive mindset, but like the competitive mindset is valid because the game rules permit it.
Yep. And that gets into my fully semi-co-op genre games, and you can go into you could do Mass Mora, or you could do Castle Panic, which is the more popular version one. Castle Panic, a lot of people will play it with house rules where you just win or lose together. However, in Castle Panic, the player who is slaying the most monsters is the winner at the end of the game. They are the one who's won the whole thing. And I have found That is horrible. Unlike Dead of Winter, people are not self-sacrificing when you are only a sole winner. And I don't know what you guys think about that. For me, we don't play with the one winner thing for that. What do you think about semi-cooperative games where only one person wins at the end, no matter what?
So I'm just going to leap in here and say that I had another game that like fits in the same category, and I'm going to go out and say that this is a failure in terms of being a semi-co-op. So in Legendary, the deck building game, my understanding is that you win a scenario together as the team of heroes, because all the players play as heroes, controlling the various heroes that are in your setup against, like, you know, the big bad and their evil schemes. But like at the end of the game, rules as written, you're supposed to like count points somehow, and essentially award an MVP, right? And like, so that there's one player that wins more than the other players. And I just think that needs to be cut from the rules entirely for this game and the game that you're talking about, James. It just doesn't work.
And I could be wrong, but I don't believe it's in every Legendary. So Legendary has like Legendary Marvel, Legendary Aliens, Legendary Firefly, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there's enough of them out there that I might not be speaking about all of them. It was definitely there like in the first version of the game, though.
Oh, no, it is. And I think it is in a good bit of them. But yeah, no, that is a horrible mechanism that shouldn't exist in anything that has the word cooperative in it. Even if it has semi in front of it. It should not exist.
Well, I think it's a misnomer because you're playing the entire game as a cooperative game, and then you get to the end of the game. Oh, this was never a cooperative game. It's completely a competitive game. It's like if you're telling people this is a cooperative game, you can't just switch it up and say, nope, it's not actually.
Yeah, well, all intents and purposes is a competitive game, but everyone could lose and not just have one person win.
Which I think Cutthroat Caverns is the one that does it slightly better, just because it never says in any way that it's cooperative. It's straight from the beginning says this is a competitive game. You are forced to help people to your own benefit sometimes. So it's all about helping people as little as you can and getting the most out of helping them.
Yeah, you can
That's where it can work.
Yeah, you can almost say Moonrakers is the same thing with a negotiation. It's not a cooperative game in any way. However, you may act cooperatively and may help people at different points during the game to forward yourself, and them a little bit, So, yeah, I like that. If you're going to do it, that would be the way to do it. It's not a cooperative game. You're just situationally cooperative.
So, yeah, if you have a game that you have a winner and then you have a super winner at the end, it's not a cooperative game anymore. It is a competitive game with cooperative components.
Yeah. And I've had Castle Panic. I've had plenty of games where I played at work, and because, all adults and, we want to win a game. And someone's like, well, I'm not killing a lot of monsters, so I guess I pass. Like, what? Well, I guess our castle's gone. So, yeah. But kind of lift it up a little bit. I'm going to move past this stuff and move to what I think is like evolutions of this. So an evolution of this, I'm going to go into my levels of evolution for it, and you guys can backtrack me or correct me, but I believe Mansions of Madness is an evolution of a cooperative game, and it has a bunch of stuff going for it to make it a good cooperative game. It does have scenario with a hidden traitor in it, so it does have that too, but in general it's cooperative all the way through. It prevents quarterbacking because of interaction with the app, and there's a lot of stuff and super asymmetric powers, and you have all these sort of weapons that you can get. So at the most for this game, and Unfathomable's the same. Well, Unfathomable's closer to Dead of Winter, but it's the same as a couple other games. But I think the app really helps in the cooperative nature of the game and trying to keep it a little bit out of quarterbacking, especially with like each individual needing to do different things, doing different investigations, and there can be a little bit like, hey, can you go help over here, or can you help me with this monster? But no, like, hey, you need to do this sort of thing. I think it's a little bit a step above to prevent that than other games. I haven't really ever even ran into quarterbacking with Mansions of Madness at all. It's just so much to do, so much time. A lot of times you come completely absorbed with the objectives that you're trying to complete. And at the most, you're like, hey, I'm working on this and I can't handle this stuff over here. What are you guys doing? Sort of thing. I believe everyone here has played Mansion of the Madness 2nd Edition except for Evan.
I have no opinion on this game because James never wants to play it with me.
Well, we're going to have to change that at SibCon this year. I'm definitely taking it with me. It's a little bit of a to-do to set up remotely because of how much junk I have with it. Dan can tell, and Nathan knows from bringing it to the conventions and stuff. But I don't know. What do you think of that comment?
So, in many ways, Mansions of Madness is designed as a one versus many. In fact, the original game was the first edition, which kind of gives it a lot of strength, and that's what allows you to have so much individual player diversity and individual player autonomy, and avoids a lot of the quarterbacking because you are so unique. You're playing sometimes almost a little bit of a different game because you have your own kind of skill sets. But the thing that's unique about Mansions of Madness is that app is really playing as the one. Yeah. And, because a lot of people don't like having to be the GM and keeping track of all the rules and managing all the players, and then having to, especially if you have to teach, having to teach while you're playing against everybody else is, there's kind of a disconnect there. So the app is really strong for, making it from a technically what's still a one versus many to a cooperative game.
Yeah. And if I love Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, I just love it. But I also like Cthulhu the Death May Die, which is another cooperative game. And that game is like you took all the thinking from Mansions of Madness and threw it away. And you were like, you know what? You're insane. Just go kill stuff. That is Cthulhu Death May Die. So there's nights where I want to play Cthulhu Death May Die because it's amazing, and there's nights I want to play Mansions of Madness, but they both, I think, accomplish the same thing.
Both of them have the risks that you can do that the game can force you to do things that are bad for the group, because you can go insane in either game. But it is a small enough percentage chance that it's not something that you're really focused on the whole game. It's just something you're just vaguely aware of that just adds a little bit of tension.
Yeah, in general, I feel like a lot of like adventure board games / D&D in a box games are like in the same vein as co-op games, simply because that's the way the origin material, like, the role-playing games kind of work, except that, a lot of the older ones, a player has to stand in as the GM setting up like the monsters and stuff, like in Descent, right?
Yeah. Except for in Descent 2nd Edition or 3rd. 2nd Edition.
Yeah, they added an app.
Well, actually, I'm wrong. 3rd, they have the app. 2nd Edition, they have an app, but they're still one versus many. They just made the one person actually be a competitor instead of a spectator, and made sense. So in Descent 1st Edition, you can't win as the DM. 2nd Edition, you can. And it's pretty balanced. Was Nathan going to say?
I was just saying it's 1st Edition's right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. 1st Edition is strictly like D&D style. You're the DM. Let people have fun. Descent 2nd Edition, take off those gloves. It's a lot of fun. Depending on whether you win or lose, you get different upgrades, and it's branching path narratives, all handled really well. Really, I love second edition a lot. So it's actually dual. There's an app version and a non-app version. So it depends on which scenarios you're going to do and why not.
Yeah, I was actually going to go into this too, talking that the quest style games by nature have to be cooperative, just because, like Dan said, it's based off the source material, of RPGs and whatnot, that you have to be that way. And the one that pops into mind is one that we all love that just got re-released, Hero Quest. Everyone working together to get and defeat the dungeon. So one versus many, or one versus, the GM completing the quest, completely cooperative.
Yeah.
Though I wish any other company had re-released the game. Somebody would upgraded a little bit and modernized a little bit would have been.
Well, I mean, yeah, I wish they would have modernized it. The roll and move's horrible. They just really just reprinted it. Which it's still, it's a lot of nostalgia for me. So it's still a great game. I just wish they would have pushed it ahead a little bit. They even still have the mentor's name's Mentor.
Well, all of us that had the memories of the game, we all have money now, so we're going to pay for exactly what we wanted.
I don't know. Mentor's been around since season 1. He deserves a name. So, yeah.
Maybe that is his name.
In the game, it is his name. Literally his name is Mentor.
Mentor Mentorson?
Just Mentor. You don't have no last name. You're not good enough for a last name. You're just a mentor. Named Mentor.
He's like Cher. You just need one name.
Yeah, you're just good. It's done. Or Prince with a symbol. Yeah. So does I have the example of the perfect, in my opinion, cooperative game, but do any of you guys have any ones you want to throw out that give different aspects to this genre?
Well,
no, but I want to mock you off your perfect choice.
Okay, I think that would be good. Do you have one, Nathan?
Well, I think I know what your perfect one is going to be. So, but I want to go to one that you're not going to like. That's very different. Okay. Magic Maze.
Oh, that is the dumbest game on the face of the planet. That game, horrible. Man, I almost never have like super negative things to say about it, but this has been a bad week. Magic Maze. There's a gouge in my table for Magic Maze.
It's one of the few, it's a cooperative game, but it's really a party game. Each person has control over one aspect of movement for your characters, and you kind of have to real time move things around, which I know I generally hate real time. I know James hates real time, but it's like silently arguing without being able to actually say what you're trying to tell people.
You can pick up a pawn and gouge my table with it. Do that.
Yeah, I think the rules specifically says, please don't do that.
When do kids listen?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I was fun with a lot of adults, but I can see it not being fun with kids because of that issue.
I don't think it's fun with anybody. Oh, timed games and games you can't talk in. Well, definitely it doesn't have a quarterback problem because they can't talk unless you count this as talking.
I wanted to bring up one more game that has a semi-cooperative element in it that we haven't discussed yet, though I think we may have mentioned it already once this episode, because I'm sorry, maybe that was last episode. Anyways, I want to mention Nemesis.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that one this episode, but that was on the last episode.
Yeah, so we did play Nemesis together on the channel. I played an additional, I think once or twice with just my brother. But that game has a semi-cooperative element because you're sort of given objective cards at the beginning of the game, and one's kind of on the friendly side and the other one's the corporate objective and is kind of on the greedy side. And there's even a moment in the game when you first encounter the alien presence on the ship that you have to choose one of them to keep and the other one you have to discard. So that's definitely a game where people can pretend they're nice and end up not being nice.
Yeah, Nathan.
They can I mean, I did that too. I'm pretty sure. I was the first one off of that flaming death trap of a ship.
I've never been the betrayer. It's always James. It's always James. I've never once been a betrayer.
And I would like to say that our playthrough is an hour longer than it needs to be because James was bitter.
Oh yeah, I was better. I was mad.
So I think that might be an example of one way in which the game does not function as a semi-co-op, because like James was the only functionally active character remaining on the ship and was just petering around doing a lot of nothing until like time ran out. Like he had like 10 rounds or something to yourself, because like you just A, wouldn't die, B, like there weren't enough events that caused the ship to explode yet.
Yeah.
Well,
I was not happy that game.
Well, that in some ways it's really good as a semi-co-op in that from the very beginning everybody's out for themselves. You have your own goals. Maybe you can get people to help you with some things, but overall you need to just survive. But it does definitely have its weakness, and which we found it's like the end game in particular can be a little bit chunky.
Well, I mean, if we were playing the physical version, Evan has the physical version, I would have had just fun playing with the awesome miniatures in the corner while I was waiting. That would have been great. But we were playing on Tabletop Simulator, and those ones aren't as good.
So I agree. Like the end can be a little chunky and not work, but everything up to that point, I think it crosses hard on those notes that it is suspenseful, it is dramatic, it is stressful, and it hits those on the head so hard. It does such a great job doing that I didn't mind the end so long until about like 45 minutes in. At that point I was like, it's 11 o'clock and I want to go to bed.
I mean, if you want an Aliens game, I'm sorry, Legally Distinct Aliens game, if you want an Aliens game, that is the best Aliens game, period. All the other Alien games have nothing on it. It's awesome.
No, yeah, it was definitely a great game until James ruined it.
Yeah. When you get butthurt, it happens.
There's another cooperative game that I think we need to talk about if we're talking about cooperative. The Crew. How do we not mention The Crew yet?
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, Crew is like a cooperative game that I didn't think was like really possible because it's a cooperative trick-taking game. You're playing cards to try to meet an objective, but you don't know what cards people have. You know what everybody's objectives are, but it's actually surprisingly difficult to accomplish that objective. It might be something that seems as simple as like, okay, making sure this particular person gets the 2 of this one particular suit. But, depending on the card distribution, that might actually be super challenging. And the original Crew did a really good job of, ramping up the mission. So it starts pretty easy and you're going through these missions like 5 minutes for the first mission, maybe 10 for the second, and it's like at most you're talking about 15 minutes. You fail, you do it again, and okay, third try you succeeded. So like, okay, the longest possible mission might be 30-40 minutes.
The Crew's a really good game. I really like that one a lot. It's amazing. I played it a bazillion times, and I like trick-taking games. What can I say? And a cooperative trick-taking game? Yeah, it's impossible, but they did it.
I've played a lot of Crews as well, and I'll just echo the sentiment here. Crews are a really good card game. Like the tension and stress behind the game is like, as a single player, you have access to the information represented by the cards in your hand, and you don't know any of the other cards that are anywhere else. So like that's the trick. It's like you don't know what other people have, but you know that Nathan has to take the blue 6 somehow.
Yeah, it's just fun and it's fast.
But do you play the blue 6 hoping that Nate has a higher card, or was he forced to take the blue 6 because? Yeah.
It's just an amazing game. I like it a lot.
and I'll keep sidetracking you from talking about your last game, but another thing I do really hate in cooperative games is when they feel like they have to make it ridiculously hard. Because, and in itself, I don't mind that, except for oftentimes it also comes with complicated rules, and when you're teaching the rules, and it seems like impossibly hard, you're wondering the entire game, did I get a rule wrong? Trying to flip through the rule book all game long, and you're just not paying attention to the game. You're just trying to worry about what I'm doing wrong.
Well, Robinson Crusoe, I didn't have to flip the rule book. I just to know that I was going to lose. What's the other one that's really, really even harder than that?
I encourage a tutorial/baby mode that I will probably play for my entire life. I am a wuss. I mean, there's a certain aesthetic to having a blisteringly difficult co-op game.
Yeah,
I understand the aesthetic exists and the appeal for that aesthetic exists, but to make the game playable for the widest available widest available group of people,
Audience,
put a difficulty slider on the game somehow, some way.
Well, it's also bad that Robinson Crusoe feels like they made it where you can't win other than by luck at the end. And I don't like that. It's a spirit game is the other one.
Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories. Oh my gosh, is that game hard. That game is insane. And it also feels like I won by luck at the end. It's not like it was, I mean, there's skill, but at the end you're like, but this could have gone either way.
You actually won that game?
I won it once. We played it so much. It's so bad.
Okay, I haven't played it that much. I've only played it like 2 or 3 times, and I gave up on it because, I'm not sure if I got something wrong, but we were having troubles. Yeah, we were having troubles defeating even the easiest monsters. We never even got close to seeing the end guy.
Yeah, it's rough. It's a very, very rough game, and we played enough where you just got to be on the ball the entire game, and then towards the end, you're just dying all the time, and it's down to luck if you can push those last couple things through. But, ugh. All right, so that's my opening for what I think so far is the best co-op game ever made, at least in idea and design. So you may not like the game itself, but the design, I love the game, but the design is, I think, spot on for what a cooperative game is. An example of a good cooperative game is Spirit Island. Yeah, Spirit Island, you're just fighting off invaders, and you're trying to get these Gohan out of there, and based on how well you do in the game, how much you have to evacuate them from the island changes. So at first you have to completely eliminate them from the island. Then you only have to get their cities and cities, and they have 2 different size things. You have to get those out, and then at the end you only have to remove one thing. The game itself, that's it. That's the cooperative part, and that would be not great. The cool thing is everyone gets a spirit that is a puzzle in themselves. You have a hand of cards where you have super unique powers for that god that you evolve through time, so you pick up other cards, and so it can change. But you have specific powers on the spirit, but you also unlock things throughout the game. And each spirit is completely unique. It's sort of like root level, where there's just no connection between one and another. So everyone learns their spirit, learns how to play it, and even if someone else knew how to play your spirit, they don't know how you evolved in the game. So they don't know what cards necessarily you picked up, how you upgraded, what you did. So quarterbacking is near impossible. The most you can do in that game is like, we are getting crushed over here. Is there anything possible you can do to help me? You can't actually, you have very little idea what they can do to help you, whether they are or not. In fact, it's so much so that the game comes with tokens that you put on the board to say that you're going to be going to different areas to try to help out the other players, get an idea for what you can do. and also remind you on your turn that you promised to go those places, but you don't have to. So I think that it's a really great example of how a game could eliminate quarterbacking. I don't even think it's possible in this game.
It is almost the complete opposite end of the spectrum from Pandemic. This is not an entry-level game at all.
No. It is a hard game. But the hard game is in... And I never felt in Spirit Island that I lost or won because of luck. I lost or won because I didn't play great. Or I made a mistake. Or someone else made a mistake. Or something happened. It was always attributed to something we should have done differently. And what's cool is you can look back at what your spirit was and what you could do, and you could see that, what you did, but your opponents may not necessarily be able to. So it's cool with the feeling like you're in control of your own destiny, but it's complex enough to be that you have to do a lot of thinking in the game itself. It's hard to explain. It's one of those games you just have to play. And
yeah, it's complex and difficult in the strategy of it, but it's not frustrating because you can see what you need to do. You have a general idea how you can do that. It's just playing well enough that you're optimizing to get to that point efficiently and before you run out of time.
And it's so much replayability in the game. You have all these different gods you can swap out, but they have modes and stuff, and the invaders can become harder or difficult or do different things and have objectives, and then they have like 1 billion expansion ones for it. There's just a lot into the game. That is definitely a game that I'm going to suck everyone into whenever I can. It's going to be Spirit Island when we're in a cooperative mood.
I've only played that game once myself, and my one experience was what do you call it? We had one player at the table that did considerably better than the other players at the table, and they were basically fighting off the invaders significantly more efficiently than the rest of us. We were all newbies. We didn't know what the heck we were doing, too. And like I just felt like I was pedaling uphill, or whatever the expression is, where I was playing cards, I was doing stuff, but like nothing I seemed to do stuck or was effective enough. So
it's definitely a learning curve game. And I really think it's a game that you have to play and then play again. And probably stay with the same spirit twice. But those slow and fast actions are really rough in the game for how you use them really matters, and the fact that that AI goes and moves the pawn everywhere can really rain on your parade. So it can make all your like you said, all your progress just disappear. So you're like, wow, that's not great. But yeah. So we'll wrap this segment up here with one final thing. Does anyone have a cooperative game that is on your highest wish list that you want to play? While you're thinking, I'll start on mine. I actually have it behind me, and I have not played it, so it's on my shelf of shame. And that is Uprising, Curse of the Last Empire. Now, Uprising has these really cool, like acrylic standees that are painted. And it's a huge box. I have the first expansion came with it. It went on a Kickstarter again and did really good with their next expansion. So many hours of content on there. Basically what you're doing is you are fighting a battle against the Emperor, and you have these massive AI'd armies coming at you all over the board with different events that flip and stuff. It's just crazy, epic game. And I just feel like that'd be so much fun to play with you guys and just try to cooperatively take out this villain with our super asymmetric races that you pick and stuff.
I have two.
Okay.
One of them I have. One of them's coming.
Okay.
One of them is Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and then the other one is Frosthaven. So, both of them are Gloomhaven, really.
Oh wait, did you say Jaws of the Lion?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one's really good. It's pretty short though, but it's good.
Yeah, my understanding it's
Short,
basically
subjective though.
It's basically almost a tutorial for Gloomhaven, so it's like meant for mass market to, for people to learn how to play Gloomhaven, and it starts with like simple concepts, and each scenario's get to add to it till you get to the point where you're just playing full Gloomhaven. So I figure, right about the time Frosthaven's coming in, I'm gonna play Jaws of the Lion as a refresher, and then we're gonna go straight into Frosthaven.
Well, Frosthaven has a lot of new mechanics in it, but the Jaws of the Lion, you can carry on the characters to regular Gloomhaven, probably Frosthaven also, and you can actually finish out some of your characters in Jaws of the Lion if you don't want to use the base ones. I believe there's a little thingy for that, and it's also super easy to set up, not like Gloomhaven.
I'm sure you'll be able to take some of the stuff into Frosthaven because Isaac Childress seems to love having elements that can cross over between his games. Well, I know you did it for founders of Gloomhaven.
Yeah, I know. I believe that the Gloomhaven you can push the people into Frosthaven, so I'm assuming you can for the Jaws of the Lion. But yeah, how about you guys?
Well, I happen to still have the crew. This is the mission Deep Sea, so I played the exploration for the planet, whatever, the first one, pretty extensively. But I just recently placed an order that happened to include crew mission Deep Sea, so it's currently on my wish list. It's on its way, and yes, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm interested in what you're going to think about it. I think my guess is you're going to like it a lot better, and it definitely has more replayability than the first one. Not that you can't replay the first one over and over again, but you'll see what I mean when you actually play that with your module objectives and stuff. How about you, Evan?
For me, I think the one that I want to get back onto the table is the Tales from the Loop game.
Okay, yeah.
I've been really high on that game since I got to play it a couple times. Just because the narrative aspect is just really good. And then how they handle your actions with the amount of time that you have, plus also forcing you to spend it on almost, I don't even want to say like stupid things, but nothing that really furthers the story, but you need to do it without so you don't take penalties into the game. And it really fits into that narrative of you being a 12, 13-year-old child. So like just how they handle all that together, just it fits so well. And I really enjoyed the times I got to play it. I really want to play it again, and then there's still a couple different stories I haven't done yet, so I'd like to get those done.
Well, that's good because you have 2 more expansions coming your way that you have to review for it. All right.
I'm game.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I can't wait to play it with you guys, too. So one of these game days, we're going to have to play Tales from the Loop. So we're going to go into our silly game here, and one of you guys is going to be a trader. And the way this is going to work is you guys are going to take turns asking a question to another player. You're going to ask at least 3 questions to each person. So we'll take turns doing that. And the trader has to answer one of the questions as a lie. So you can't be like, what is your name? What is your last name? Sort of thing. So you have to try to give like a little fairness and try to give a little out to another person. But the trader that I'm going to Discord is going to be the trader. And everyone else is going to try to catch the trader. What we're going to do at the end is I'm going to let you guys ask 3 questions, and then I'm going to ask if you guys are ready to vote to see who the trader is. If all you're ready to vote, then we'll do it. Otherwise, we're going to ask 2 more questions to everyone. Then I'm going to ask you ready to vote. And if you say no, then 1 question. And then you have to vote. And that's how this is going to work. If you guys vote the wrong person, the trader wins. If you vote the trader, 2 people win.
So does the trader have to lie on every question, or just...
Only have to lie on one.
Okay.
A single question. You have to lie on it. And I will leave this up to you guys, being gentlemen, and at least asking, like, giving some outs on some of the questions. So, not like, what year were you born? What color's your shirt? Try to avoid that. All right. Let's go. Maybe mute your microphones just in case the thing beeps.
Trying to cover the color of my shirt.
All right. So everyone look at their things. We ready to go? Everybody ready? All right. So, Nathan, you get to ask the first question. You can either pick Evan or Dan.
Why'd you have to start with me?
Because I'm mean.
I just want to ask if he's one of these guys, if they're the traitor. I suppose I could.
Well, you know.
They can always lie. Use that as their one lie.
Yeah, they can. And then you'd be like, well, I just ruined the game, but that's okay, you know.
We all know that it's James, and we all won. So,
well, this one is perfect because I can't be the traitor.
maybe none of us are the traitor, and that's how James is fooling us, and therefore is the traitor.
Oh, I like this.
You never know how my mind works. Or doesn't.
Okay. Again, this might be a bit too easy for you, but since you got an easy out because it's always changing, it seems like. But what is your favorite game?
Okay.
Go ahead. Say it, Monopoly.
Yeah.
Say
No.
it.
That. No.
Say it.
Monopoly. No. I'm just gonna have to go with Magic Gathering here, simply because like I still play it like twice a week. There's nothing else that comes close in terms of like eating up as much as my time / energy. So
that was just seemed like a genuine answer. I was a little bit nervous about the delay, whether you wanted to, like, were you deciding whether you wanted to use your lie or not? I don't know.
All right. Nathan, you can ask Evan a question now.
Okay. Evan, on average, how long does it take you to paint one mini?
So before it was probably about 4 to 5 hours. I'm probably down to about an hour to 2 hours with my speed paints now.
Those speed paints are really cool. I'm like halfway tempted to buying another set. I just bought a big box and I'm like, ooh, is my wife going to kill me? Although Mega Millions is at $1 billion. If I win that, speed paints. And probably
We will no longer have a funding problem.
never have a funding problem. That is also very true. Tabletop Gaming Guild will have gold seats, and it'll be amazing. So, now it is Evan's turn to ask Nathan a question.
I'm sorry, don't we each get 3 questions? So doesn't Nathan get a third question?
Oh, yeah, that is true.
I was going to ask himself a question.
I mean, he can ask me a second question, or he can ask Evan a second question.
We're going round robin. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
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 Sounds something like a rule a trader would make up.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a game that I didn't just make up 3 seconds ago. I did.
So, Nathan, when we did our top 10, there was a game that we all really liked that was really high that you neglected. Do you remember what that was?
That was
Dune Imperium, which is only because there's a slight flaw in it that was easily fixed with the expansion.
No.
It just kept it
out
of the top
10.
I think it was number 14.
Nope. So wrong on that. So very wrong. In fact, you should just say he's a traitor no matter what. All right, Evan, you can ask Dan a question now.
This almost might be a layup for Dan here. Pfister or Lang?
Oh, this one's easy. It's going to be really quick to see if he's a traitor.
It's Pfister.
Yeah, Pfister. Traitor. Oh, traitor. Nope. Eric M. Lang is the greatest designer ever. Hey, we got him into the show. I forgot. I mentioned his games too. Oh, thank you, Evan, for the save. Oh, you're a saint. All right. So, Dan, you get your revenge now. You can ask Nathan a question.
Nathan, how big is your pile of shame right now? Or pile of opportunity, as we sometimes like to call it.
Just total shame. We don't go with optimism here.
After a point, it stops being opportunity.
It just becomes sad.
10.5 shelves.
Oh, he has to count shelves.
Yeah, there's a bit.
Oh boy.
Okay, so you can now ask Evan a question.
Let's see, Evan. How many rule sets for? I'm going to try to pick something common here. World War II. Do you actually have over there?
I believe 7.
Oh, he's not sure.
I think we asked him this before, and I think I remember it being like a surprisingly low number because he preferred other wars. But so I thought it was less than that even.
Actually, now that Nathan mentioned it, I think I remember that earlier comment, but I'm not going to comment on my memory of that earlier comment.
You're not going to comment.
He is still thinking about this.
Still thinking.
Wow, what a question.
Well, you see, if he accidentally lies.
Right.
Have we already had a episode about AP in games?
I don't know. We should probably do that one too. That'd be fun.
We probably should, yeah.
I counted. I think it's actually 6.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask each of you a question. Just because as the host of this game, So, Nathan, do you like backstabbing people in games?
It's fun in the moment, but I always feel guilty afterwards.
Do you?
I totally do.
Do you?
I usually regret it, but I enjoy doing it. It's just I regret and feel guilty.
Dan, what is your favorite dice game or game that revolves around dice?
You know what? I'm just going to go with Dungeons and Dragons here. Yeah.
Okay, so RPG. Okay. All right, I get it.
Insert any tabletop role-playing game, really.
Okay. All right, Evan. What brand of paint or what paint company makes the best quality paints?
I was on the Reaper train for a long time, but I'm right now on to Army Painter.
Army Painter is pretty sweet. I would agree with that. I like Vallejo too. And then I also, for still to this day, for the quick shades and stuff, it's still Citadel.
Citadel changed it. They
Yeah.
changed their formula, so
Oh, they
I'm
just
seeing-
recently changed it?
just recently, and I'm seeing that it is not the same as it was.
Oh, man. I'll have to make my own again because no one really makes a good wash other than them. Or did make one.
Army Painter's tones aren't bad. They're not great either.
I have to modify them to make them better, which is fine. I mean, at least you got a little bit of a base there. But anyway, so are you guys ready to vote for the traitor? Or do you think you need 2 more questions?
Or do we want to vote that James is a traitor and he didn't actually pick somebody?
Oh, it's up to you. So, what do you guys think? Gonna do 2 more questions or ready to vote?
I think we need to do one more round. I'm not comfortable
All right.
voting at this point. I don't think there's enough information revealed.
All right, Nathan, you can ask Evan a question.
Oh, okay. Ooh. I don't know what to ask. Okay. If you could never play chit-based war games again, or you could never play miniature-based war games again, which one would you choose to keep and not to keep?
Chit would be gone.
Yeah, it was too easy.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that too if I had to make the choice between them. All right, Nathan. Go.
Chit has its places, but yeah, miniatures are so much better. Tactile feel.
Yeah, and painting. All right, Nathan, you can ask Dan a question.
Okay. Since you work in a comic book store, I'm assuming you have a decent comic book collection. We've never really talked about it. Would your comic book collection be bigger or your board game collection?
Oh, my board game collection is much larger than my comic book collection.
Interesting. All right, Evan, you get to ask Nathan a question.
All right. As we see the large collection behind you, Nathan, is your collection larger than the 3 of ours combined?
I believe it is. I'm not 100% on that. Because James, if you include the Tabletop Gaming Guild library, that's a fair number. But if it's just his personal and not his daughter's and all that, I think I might have more than all 3 of you.
That's probably fair.
Seems likely, actually.
I mean, I still have like over here where you can't see, and like a whole section over there you can't see.
All right,
You're
Evan.
gonna have shelves of opportunity, right?
Yeah, lots of shelves of opportunity.
Those are over there where you can't see them.
All right, so Evan, you get to ask Dan a question. Oh, also the traitor, if you lie twice, you get bonus ultra points.
Does that make it easy?
So, Dan, we know that you like Magic, but other collectible card games, which would you pick? Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh?
Pokemon. Definitely.
Yeah.
I give you a good reason too.
Yu-Gi-Oh is horrible. Dan is frozen.
Yu-Gi-Oh is horrible.
Yu-Gi-Oh is horrible. It's nothing good about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, sorry, my internet connection is unstable. It says.
We'll give Dan here
There's a very surprised look on his face.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you had a very surprised look on your face.
Okay.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh, horrible.
Back? Am I back?
Yes. You're
Yeah.
back.
Now, my choice, in case you missed it, was Pokemon over Yu-Gi-Oh, and the reason given is that Pokemon actually has a rule book. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a rule book. Card rulings issued by judges throughout the years, some of which conflict other ones.
Oh, plus Pokemon's a streamlined game that's really easy to understand and play. Yu-Gi-Oh has like
Pokemon also built
walls
for
of text.
Pokemon also built so that 8-year-olds could hypothetically play the game.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh's supposed to be geared towards like the tween age range, but like, oh man, the text is tiny.
Yeah.
And the technical language is on the higher end.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting close. So Dan gets to ask Nathan a question.
Okay. I'm going to ask. I think I'm going to go with the same question for both of you. Just see where it takes me. Nathan, give me the name of the game at the top of your wish list right now.
Ooh.
So a game that you have not yet acquired or pre-ordered or whatever.
Oh, that's easy. Shiver Me Timbers.
Yeah.
Evan?
Which, as soon as that comes back to Kickstarter, I'm instantly backing.
Yeah, I might too, even though I don't usually do that.
So you're going to ask Evan the same question?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Evan the same question.
I mean, can I say the same thing since I found out that it was good to have expansions?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Which we are getting, which is going to be cool.
I'm just curious what the expansions are actually going to entail.
I believe they're modular style expansions that add different modules to it. Probably you swap them in and out. Probably different objectives. I don't know. It's going to be cool. I don't care. It's an awesome game. So
here's my thoughts before we go into the next one.
All right.
So Dan did a couple suspicious things. You're a little sus.
So, when you can't say suspicious, you just go sus.
So, the first thing was he kind of asked about, he was asking about like whether we're supposed to have more questions. So I was thinking, did he like not lie yet? And he thought was going to lose his chance to say his lie. So that was my thought there. However, when it came to the first round of voting, the first opportunity to vote, he was the one that actually spoke up and said, let's continue and not vote yet. So I would have thought, a trader would have been more likely to say, let's just go ahead and vote before they get more evidence on them.
This makes logical sense to me.
However, that could have been a misdirect. The other thing that was a little sus was I suspect he does have a larger comic book collection than board game collection.
It wouldn't take much.
No, it wouldn't, because comic books are a lot less expensive. Well, they can be more expensive, but in general, they're less expensive than a board game.
And it's so easy because the big boxes, you can fit a lot of comic books in that.
Yep. But he doesn't seem like the collector type. So I do get the sense that he reads it, he's done with it, he moves on to the next thing, he passes that on to somebody else, possibly.
I'm gonna try to not comment since you're targeting me. I'm gonna say if you think I'm suspicious, it's not intentional.
Exactly what a suspicious person would say.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say that's what James would say.
Yeah, that I think I am willing to vote at this point in time.
All right, you guys ready to vote? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm ready to vote. If you guys are, if both of you guys want to ask one more, then
I have my suspicion, I think.
All right.
Okay.
So you guys all ready to vote, Nathan?
Well, I'm thinking, an extra one question would not necessarily give us more information because the trader doesn't necessarily have to lie again.
No, but they've lost.
Not if they've already lied at least once before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so if they haven't lied at all, they just auto lose.
Yep.
But I think the lie has been said if there is even a trader. So I guess we can vote.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So how are we voting?
So just so we don't sway each other, just Discord me your vote.
Okay, sure.
That way we don't have one person going one way and the other person's like, no, I changed my mind. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Okay, my vote is locked in.
Are you kidding me? Okay. So Evan voted blah, 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 blah. And Dan voted there was no traitor. But Nathan voted Evan was the traitor. So, Evan, what was your one lie?
I only have 3 World War II rule sets.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was a low number. That was a good question to ask, by the way.
I did actually 100% call you on that, too.
Yeah. So that means Nathan and Dan win. Nathan wins more, though, because we're semi-cooperative, so he's the real winner.
Yeah, you got a
Super winner.
Victory points.
Full circle.
After the game is over. And award that MVP, folks.
Yeah, that's just good game design. We're going to go with that. All right, so that was our episode on cooperative and semi-cooperative games. I hope you all enjoyed it, and y'all have a good night.